Okay, so this was a troll. You can stop commenting now. Seriously, this video, I mean, I expected to get some views and some backlash, but it got all of the views and backlash. So mission accomplished to the point that I feel anxious about it. Yeah, let's talk about gender identity, and while I'm at it, offer a peaceful solution to the waifu wars and say everyone can have a Gwyndolin. Oh, and another thing, I'm gonna pull stuff right out of my ass, too. But with that said, I've had time to ruminate on the fading of the flame, and at no point did I devour Gwyndolin, so that's how that's done, Aldrich. Wait, what? I've been thinking about what I said in that video, and I think there's a discussion to be had here, so, you know, let's go. No posturing, no misuse of the word objective to sound like a Morisoff, no sarcasm, well, maybe a little sarcasm. But I like to discuss the ideas put forth in my most viewed video in a more depthful way. So for simplicity, we're going to break this down into 3 easy steps. Number 1, explain in as reasonable terms as possible actual objective lore as outlined in-game. Number 2, explain various time mechanics in a way that doesn't make you want to kill me. Fingers crossed. Number 3, discuss the implications therein. This is my other Dark Souls, time shenanigans. If I was Mike Stoklasa of Red Letter Media, this would be not my Star Trek, but more like my Ghost Adventures, a guilty pleasure, and whenever I bring it up, Jay sighs and looks right into the camera. So, what we know for sure, BFF Solaire explains,
"We are amidst strange beings in a strange land. The flow of time itself is convoluted, with heroes centuries old phasing in and out. The very fabric wavers, and relations shift and obscure. There's no telling how much longer your world and mine will remain in contact."
Alright, so we know that hundreds of years can separate parallel worlds in this universe, which is to some degree undeniably a multiverse given the parallel worlds. It's multi-worldal, not multiversal. I don't think that's a word, but essentially, this means that any number of butterfly effects can occur. As an aside, a butterfly effect is basically an insignificant event that has significant effects on things. The usual example given is fittingly, when a butterfly flaps its wings in the US, it has an effect all the way in China, blah 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 blah. As a more extreme example, this means there is nothing, absolutely nothing to stop an undead such as Adrio Avadi from the time of, let's say, Dark Souls 3, from being summoned back to years before the events of DS3, where she gives some Blade of the Dark Moon the soul's equivalent of the Sports Almanac from Back to the Future. As a result, Gwyndolin has his blades jump Sullivan as soon as he shows up, and then when Aldrich arrives, if indeed he ever does, instead of it being Sam Jackson and a few other nobody Jedi facing down Darth Sidious, it's Sam Jackson, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and the whole fucking Jedi Council. You're fucked. You are fucked, mate. So Gwyndolin survives in certain timelines, and I don't really see how you can disagree with that. See, if you have people from different worlds and time periods all intersecting and interacting, that is going to create massive butterfly effects, changing events. So it's entirely fair to say that not all Souls timelines end up at the Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3 that we got. And if you're asking then, well, why is Dark Souls 2 and Dark Souls 3 the way it is? Because that's the fucking iteration we got, okay? They weren't going to make their games a procedurally generated nightmare world. I see the merit in that, and if I could get something like, I don't know, Golden Light meets Dark Souls, I would literally shit bricks. I would shit bricks, build a house with them, and then I would complain that the house smells like poo. Moving on. Now then, time mechanics! To explain theoretical physics in brief, the many worlds interpretation is essentially, for every decision we make, we create a new parallel timeline, one in which we made that specific decision, but also the opposite still exists. Example, I had Pokemon cereal for breakfast today, but I almost had Cheerios instead. Well, that means in some parallel timeline, I did in fact pick the Cheerios and lived a healthy lifestyle that day. Unlike today. Just as real, because it was possible. Obviously, there's no timeline where I go Super Saiyan, because that isn't possible. There is, however, a timeline where I lose my mind and become convinced I'm a Super Saiyan. I bet that me is way happier than this me. Tell you that. With the way Souls works, it is more like a pseudo-multiverse, where not every decision creates a new timeline, but rather, each new playthrough is basically its own timeline. So you're still dealing with potentially limitless parallel timelines. I've used the word timeline way too much. So you're still dealing with potentially limitless parallel worlds, all beginning at the very same point. Now, to reach a point in which we can justify something like, I don't know, a Gwyndolin for everybody, we would need to change events dating back to before the supposed start of time's convolution, which, logically, would probably have begun after Gwyn linked the fire and messed with the delicate balance of nature. Or rather, the world's logic. That isn't possible, you say? Well...
Think fast, douchefag! Power Thirst now comes in
Ashen Mist! In Dark Souls 2, we use the remains of an ancient stone dragon to travel back to the Age of Grey. Clearly, to a point where the War for Disparity was still happening. Now, you can cop out and say that Ashen Mist takes you to a magical memory world or a dreamscape, but the only thing that actually makes any real sense is a causality loop. I mean, how could a memory or dream be this specific? How can a fallen giant have memories of this?
What are you doing here? You are not one of our soldiers, and I don't take you for a mercenary.
I think Abridged Series Vegeta said it best. How'd you know about the parts you weren't there for? And then Frieza gets mad. So let us assume that Ashen Mist simply facilitates a causality loop. That means traveling back to a time before the first linking of the fire is possible in some capacity. So, how long before Aldia, or somebody like Aldia, cracks this? Especially with the existence of places like the Ringed City, where time doesn't seem to be in effect as so long as Filianor remains undisturbed. There's also an abundance of dark there, and as we know, light is time, dark is the other side of that coin, and Manus was able to use the Abyss to mess with time, so the Ringed City? Perfect place for a mad sorcerer scientist. Now, the implications of this are pretty simple. It is entirely possible, or at the very least not provably impossible, that someone could crack this time travel nonsense and either A, travel back and change a parallel timeline, or B, butterfly effect / frequency their own timeline wherein the future is changed, but the person doing it still recalls the previous iteration. This is a cop-out for less intelligent writers who don't want to explore or even think about time paradoxes. Shots fired. See, this would be the only way to entirely change character origins and whatnot, where something like Gwyndolin actually being born female is a possibility. Maybe Adriola cracks this case, goes back to the time before conception, and then kicks Gwyn in the dick, resulting in a different version of Gwyndolin. Maybe one where the snake bit is the upper half. I'd still do it, and I'm not sorry about it. But essentially, this would retroactively make a lot of things possible, while it also not being retroactive, since it's time travel, so it would seem as if these phenomena were always a thing. So really, I just rambled about nerdy shit only to conclude, as with basically everything in Souls, we don't fucking know, we probably won't ever know, just believe what the fuck you want, cause it's possible that it works that way. And I'm not going to think of an ending because some other me in another timeline already did, so fuck it. In fact, really, since there could just be an endless parade of each of us, with just tiny differences but generally the same, does anything matter? Does anything even matter in life? I mean, who or what even are we? What if I don't exist? Like, really, think about that just a moment. How do we even know that we exist, much less time exists? What even is existence and time and consciousness? I don't know, and I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm gonna, oh God, I think I'm gonna vomit. I think I'm having a panic attack. I gotta go.